the team I have winning the North, Cleveland Browns, is who I will be picking here.
Who's going to be their savior?
That's a good question. And we'll obviously have to have
They're
that
going to need a
answer.
lawyer and a priest up there.
Dude, they the amount of who they brought in on this roster in terms of pairing Jameis with Deshaun Watson is just an utterly absurd. And then to have your second round pick get a domestic violence charge right out the gate.
I just wish that they had Hard Knocks wherever Jameis Winston was. That guy needs a camera with him at all times and a microphone. He is one of the most entertaining people. But
this Browns team, largely the same as we saw last year. They lose, obviously, Joe Flacco, unfortunately, but they brought in Jameis Winston. Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki, the linebackers leave. They added Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos via trade. Mike Hall, the DT, looked good in the preseason, but again, we don't know how much he'll play this year after all that's been going on with these legal issues off the field here. But my burning question is, with the team that won 11 games last year, a lot of those with Joe Flacco, that's only projected to win 8.5 and has the third hardest schedule in the NFL, are they going to be brave enough to bench Deshaun Watson? That's my burning question.
Who hasn't thrown a football since November.
Who still has shoulder pain issues.
General soreness.
That he has to miss practices this preseason. Who has looked nothing like the quarterback we ever saw in Houston, who was legitimately awful at times last year. Do they have the cojones to bench him? Because they were better. They were flat out way better with Joe Flacco.
There were a couple guys who came in, not named Deshaun Watson, with some real spark plugs to this offense throughout the course of the preseason. And you go on Twitter. Twitter tells you the story before you can see it with your own eyes. But they're like, I mean, look at these quarterbacks not named Deshaun Watson in here for the Cleveland Browns, looking like they can run Stefanski's offense with ease. Why can't he do it? Is the shoulder that bad?
Because they're loaded. This team is utterly, utterly loaded. I think we underrate how good this team is.
We love the offensive line in Cleveland.
Yeah. Because Deshaun looks so bad.
Big, handsome, strong, just strapping dudes getting ready to protect your skill players. That's what it's all about, baby.
All right, what's your burning?
Okay, my burning question for the Browns.
Yeah,
I mean that was really it. What's the deal with Deshaun Watson? Okay, because I've picked him at we've had 4 episodes now. I've talked about him glowingly in some of these episodes, but I get the injury updates, and when I do, I start to question my own sanity, and I start to think that I've got Stockholm syndrome being a fan of Deshaun Watson. Why can't it just make sense to me and make it make sense, Stefanski? Bench him, bring somebody else in so I don't have to think about him anymore. Does that make sense?
You say you're a fan of Deshaun Watson reminds me of one of my buddies
I'm a fan of his game. He was the Michael Jordan of college football.
He was on track to be he was almost like an NBA star in that my buddy was a fan of him and not necessarily a fan of football teams.
Okay.
He was just a fan of him. That's how NBA players are. They're just fans of players.
Kids are Steph Curry fans.
And imagine being a fan of just Deshaun Watson as soon as all that.
That's a bad investment.
Sexual assault allegations. He just threw all his jerseys.
I'm a fan of a lot of people, okay? People at home, all right? I don't have just a Watson jersey in my closet, all right? There are others.
But yeah, the Cleveland Browns, the roster is elite. Truly. Defensive line's loaded. Secondary is as deep as it gets in the NFL right now. Offensive line.
Bully ball.
The receiving core gets open. 3 guys that can separate. That 3 is, they have ball skill issues, but they can get open at will. So a lot to like, but again, comes back to Deshaun.